Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavaba Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jaya Gopi Janavaba Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Kiravanachari Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Kiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava 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 Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Antarashmi Bhagavatam ki, Krishna book ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Krishna Jai Govinande. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to serve this morning with this class on Krishna book, chapter 11. So I pray for all your blessings to do justice to this class so that we can have a better appreciation of the pastimes of the Lord from this chapter. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanagana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakapatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavya Evacha, Pitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is a very beautiful chapter. There's many pastimes in this chapter. And these pastimes are sandwiched between the histories of two pairs of transgressors against the Lord. And what's very interesting about it is how the Lord deals with these different persons. So the first pair at the beginning are the sons of Kuvera, Nakulavara and Manigriva. Right? This chapter is coming after Krishna liberated them. The second pair of transgressors are the demons Vatsasura and Bakasura, who Krishna deals with at the end of this chapter. Right? So at the beginning, we're concluding the discussions on Nakulavara and Manigriva, and at the end, we're discussing the killing of Bakasura and Vatsasura. So what is interesting about it is how Krishna deals with these transgressors. He forgives the two sons of Kuvera, and he kills the two demons. They're both transgressors, or all four of them are transgressors, but the Lord deals with them in different ways. Now, this is not an indication of partiality on the part of the Lord. He says in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 9, text 29, that Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu, right? He's equal to all. The demons like to claim that Krishna is impartial, right? We recall in the 7th canto, Hiranyakashipu is thundering about how Krishna favors the demigods, right? And he's always taking their side. And it may indeed seem so, that Krishna has forgiven these demigods and then he ends up killing the demons in the end. But the truth is that there's a very special relationship that the demigods have with the Lord, and this is the reason why he grants them that mercy of forgiving them. And Srila Prabhupada explains this in the purport of chapter 10, canto 10, chapter 10, texts 20 and 22. There he says that although the demigods are indeed attached to material things, right, just like the demons, they have material attachments. And those material attachments, it causes them to make some offenses. Right? This is what happened to Nakulavara and Manigriva. Right? They caused offenses because of their material attachments. But still, Prabhupada says, they never forget their relationship of service to the Lord. That is their redeeming factor. They never forget their relationship of service. The Asuras completely forget their relationship. Right? They're just all right offensive. They don't give themselves an opportunity to be redeemed because they don't want to engage in service. They don't want to acknowledge that they have any kind of relationship. So for those who engage in the Lord's service, what does he say in the same verse, 9:29? He says, Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. That person is a friend to him. Right? We don't kill friends. So the one who engages in the Lord's service, even if they have a fall down, even like these two boys, Nakulavara and Manigriva, they had a fall down. But they resumed their attitude of devotion. Right? They persisted in their devotional service. And Krishna says in the same chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita that as long as we remain in devotional service, we get forgiven. We quickly become righteous. Right? So therefore, the demigods are forgiven because they'll become righteous again. They'll continue in their attitude of service to Krishna. The demons don't want to engage in that, no matter how many opportunities they get. And Krishna gives them opportunities. How many times did Ravan get an opportunity to do the right thing? How many personalities tried to give him good advice? How many times did Shishupal have the opportunity to stop offending Krishna? He had 100 opportunities to think that, I'm not doing the right thing. Right? Hiranyakashipu as well. Every time Prahlad Maharaj was saved, there was an opportunity for him to wonder, why is this happening? So it's not that Krishna doesn't give them the opportunities. They cannot claim that Krishna is not, that he's impartial to the partial to the demigods. Krishna is always impartial. He gives the demons an opportunity. They just don't take to devotional service. Right? This is their downfall. At some point, Krishna says, enough. For their own sake, he kills them. Because they're not going to redeem themselves. They're just going to keep committing offenses. So even though he appears to be doing something negative, he's not doing anything negative. He's saving them from their own selves. Right? Another factor that was in the favor of these two brothers, Nakulavara and Manigriva, was that they got the mercy of a pure devotee, Narada Muni. Right? Srila Prabhupada explains in this chapter that, in the Bhagavatam, that because Narada had shown mercy, that's why Krishna actually went to save these two brothers. So even that mercy is not excluded from the purview of the demons. When a devotee appeals on the part of a demon, they also get saved. I think about Kaliya serpent. Right? His wives, the wives of the Kaliya serpent were devotees. They prayed on his behalf and Krishna saved him. So if we get the mercy of a pure devotee, even if we're a demon, we can actually be saved. But then that also brings us to another interesting point. Not all the persons who were prayed for by devotees or who got mercy were saved. What was different with Kaliya? He was repentant. Kaliya was repentant just like the sons of Kuvera, Nakulavara and Manigriva were repentant. And this brings us to a very interesting point Srila Prabhupada makes in Canto 1, Chapter 19, Text 1. His Grace Raghunath Prabhu was actually explaining that point to us very nicely. That if we are repentant, if we are really, truly repentant, we get redeemed. Srila Prabhupada explains that point. It delivers us from all sins. There is a deep and powerful spiritual value in repentance. Right? So this is how another factor that was in the favor of these boys, Nakulavara and Manigriva. Demons don't have that sense of repentance. They don't feel sorry for anything they do. They don't want to excuse anything they do. They believe that they're right. It's a common disease that all of us suffer with in this material world. We all just believe we're always right. Right? It's very hard for any of us to actually admit that we're doing something wrong. And the interesting thing is that when we come to this material world, it is actually to repent. It is to repent that we wanted an independence separate of Krishna. So that whole mood of repentance needs to be there, and we need to be constantly assessing our actions if we're in line with developing the right mood now, devotional service, so that we can escape this world. So if we're always stuck on that mindset of, I'm right, it's very unlikely that we're going to actually develop that humility that's necessary for us to advance in devotional service to get out of this world, because that humility is the diametric opposite of the idea that I'm always right, that everything that I do is correct. So this is the importance of developing that mentality, right? And we have to also be very circumspect that we don't keep that mentality all the time of thinking that everything that we do is right, even though sometimes, it may be in the course of devotional service, but if it's not motivated by the purest of intentions, then we have to assess ourselves. Is this actually good or right or true for our service? Right. So the sons of Kuvera, Nakulavara, and Manigriva, they were indeed saved because of their repentance, because they got the mercy of Narada Muni, but still we note that they had to be punished. They still had to endure some punishment. That's because they offended a Vaishnava. So His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj is explaining that even though we may get the benefit of devotional service, we have to experience that benefit after we've suffered for our offenses. That's the only time that we can actually, we could say, the fruit of our service to the Lord. We must endure those offenses first, because we have to learn our lessons. Everything we said about being in this material world is about learning those lessons so that we don't repeat them again. Particularly the offenses against devotees. We are signing up for an eternity of devotional service in the spiritual world with devotees. If we don't learn how to relate to them properly, if we don't learn how not to offend them, what are we going to do when we go there? So it's important that we get that right, and then we see that devotional service, we start feeling the ecstasy of devotional service when we stop our offenses. Nakulavara and Manigriva, they were allowed to experience pure devotional service after they had suffered for their offense in particular. So this is a very important point for us to take note of. So we'll move on with our readings. So at the beginning here, when these two Arjuna trees fell to the ground, then all the inhabitants came to untie Krishna, to see what the sound was, and Nanda Maharaj untied Krishna. His Holiness Indradhamma Swami Maharaj was making a point in the class, very interesting point, that the mother Yashoda, tied up Krishna, Nanda Maharaj untied Krishna. So in the material world, we're bound by material nature, who's our mother. We get untied by our father, Krishna. So I thought it was a very nice point. But the inhabitants of Vrindavan, even though they're seeing these two trees and they're seeing Krishna, and they've got eyewitness accounts that Krishna actually pulled these two trees down by the children. This is what we read in this first paragraph. Because of their great love for Krishna, they can't reconcile that he actually did this. They have so many other ideas, that it may be demons that did it. Mother Yashoda thinks the wind did it, the wind blew the trees down. This is the charm of Vrindavan, that the devotees there love Krishna so much that they cannot believe that he could actually be capable of this. For them, he's just this wonderful, beautiful extraordinarily loving child, but not extraordinary to the point of being God, right? They don't see that. And this allows Krishna to relax in his relationship with them. He can be himself. He can just love, right? Because he's not concerned that they have some ulterior motive. We always have some ulterior motive when we approach God, right? That is the unfortunate conditioning that we're in right now. We have a want in any relationship, actually. Our eventual aim is to become purified of that, so that Krishna can let his guard down and just be as loving with us as he is with all the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, right? He is already that nature of love, and we need to earn that full relationship with him. And there's also a wonderful pastime in this chapter, in the next page, about the fruit vendor. This is an example of what happens when we have a relationship of love with Krishna. The fruit vendor wasn't seeing God coming towards her, because if she was in our mindset, she would have thought of all of the things she could ask of him, right? She just saw this extraordinarily beautiful child who was doing something very cute, trying to barter like an adult would. And if she was like us and wanting something, she would have been very disappointed, because he wasn't even like holding the grains. How much grains could two little hands hold? On top of that, he was dropping them as he walked. Right? She was just so charmed by him, that love, obviously as a resident of Vrindavan, that she had for him, that she didn't care about the grains. For that love, she just gave him as much fruit as his little hands could hold. And in his exchange of love, Krishna gave her more jewels than her basket could hold. So it may seem like it wasn't an exchange like what we'd want. We get a whole lot of possessions in exchange for our devotion, but actually we have to look at it on a deeper level, that Krishna was rewarding her love for him with, well, we could say things that she could actually use in his service, because this is the mentality of the people of Vrindavan. They're using everything in the Lord's service. But the whole point is that she didn't expect anything in exchange. She didn't know he's God. She's got no consciousness of him being God. He's just a child. She fully accepted that he was just going to give her a few grains of rice. But still, she gave him everything that she had. Okay? This is what we should be working towards. Right? This is should be our mood. So we will move on in right. So another pastime or other pastimes that are happening in this chapter after this pastime with the fruit vendor is how Krishna is controlled in his loving relationships by his devotees. So this is tying in with our discussions that when Krishna is in a loving relationship, he will do things that we wouldn't actually expect of God. So particularly in this chapter, Srila Prabhupada says, he dances for the gopis like a puppet in their hands. He tries to carry things to Mother Yashoda, things that are bigger than he is. And when he can't, he gestures in a very sweet way. And he puts the slippers of his father on his head. So these things are not to be taken figuratively. There are a lot of people who can't accept that God would do these things. So they want to explain it away. They want to say that no, Krishna didn't actually do this, or it actually stands for something. And although there are many layers of meanings, we'll also explain this point further on. But it can be taken literally. Shri Shri Radhanath ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Giraj Govardhan Hari ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So we'll see that there are many layers of understandings in Krishna's pastimes, as there are many layers of personalities who try to understand these pastimes, right? But for those who are on the topmost level, this is an actual pastime. Krishna actually puts the shoes of his father on his head. Okay? And this is, like we say, what he does because of his great love for his parents. It's not a contradiction that God puts shoes on his head. People want to explain that away by saying that Krishna is a form of the Brahman acting as a human, and so that can help their minds reconcile this, that God is putting shoes on his head, because they can't really accept that point. But if we want to limit God by saying that he can't do a certain thing, then where's the concept of the unlimited power of God? God should be able to do whatever he wants to do. He should be able to have parents if he wants to, or have friends if he wants to, and put shoes on his head if he wants to. If we have so many limitations that God can't have a form, he can't descend to this world, he can't have loving pastimes, he can't experience love, he can't have emotions. God has to be this all-pervasive light, and that's it. God, that's what you get. Where's the fun in being God, or where's the power in being God? Right? This is the way that people actually limit God. They claim that we limit God by saying he has a form, but they're limiting him by saying he can't have a form, or he can't have attributes. This Srila Prabhupada explains repeatedly. We don't limit Krishna by saying he has a form, because his form is unlimited. His form is not only unlimited, his form has unlimited power, and Krishna himself can take unlimited forms. And he doesn't take those unlimited forms because he's trying to prove a point to these impersonalists or anyone else. He takes those forms out of love. That's all he cares about. That's all Krishna is, it's love. So those, Srila Prabhupada explains that point in Canto 3 in chapter 24, text 31. He says that the Lord takes these these forms because of the loving desires of his devotees. Right? His devotees desire a form, and he takes that form. So which kind of devotees get this privilege? Well, he's pure devotees, because we have to earn it again. We said that we have to become purified of all of our material contamination, all of our selfish desires. And when our desires are purely only for Krishna, completely unselfish, only to please him, and we desire to see him in a certain form, well, he becomes that form. Right? And as he has unlimited devotees, he has unlimited forms, and this is the real power of God. And so it says in this chapter, the Lord was exhibiting such childish dealings with the inhabitants of Vrindavan because he wanted to show the great philosophers and sages searching after the absolute truth, how the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is controlled by and subject to the desires of his pure devotees. Right? This is God. Okay. So Krishna is controlled to the point in this chapter that he's being scolded by his mother. She is in a very exalted position, Mother Yashoda, because of her great affection. In the corresponding chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, to this chapter, Mother Rohini goes to call, when she goes to call Krishna and Balaram and they don't come from playing, she says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that, Mother Yashoda, you should call them because of your great affection. So there's no enviousness that, oh, the boys will listen to you, you love them more. It's not like that. It doesn't work like that in the spiritual world. There's no envy. Mother Yashoda's position of having such deep affection for Krishna that he'll do anything for her, this is praised by the other inhabitants. They don't feel envy about it. So when Mother Rohini doesn't have any success in calling Krishna and Balaram back, then she sends Mother Yashoda. And Mother Yashoda is the topmost devotee in the Vasalya Rasa, or the relationship of parenthood. There's many other devotees in that rasa. And we can see Mother Rohini doesn't have any success with calling Krishna. Then when Mother Yashoda goes to call Krishna, she invokes Nanda Maharaj. She says to Krishna and Balaram that he's waiting for them. He can't take his food if the boys are not there. So then they start leaving their playmates and going back. And then the playmates threaten not to play with Krishna again. So then he goes back. So what happens? Mother Yashoda scolds Krishna. And for Mother Yashoda, Krishna comes back. Right? She wants him to give cows away in charity because it's his birthday. So this is the topmost position of Mother Yashoda. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely puts it that Krishna and Balaram, they're worshipable by the great demigods. Krishna is the liberator of the Yamala Arjun trees, the liberator of Nakulavara and Manigriva. But he's listening to his mother and he's playing with his friends. Right? Apparent contradiction, right? He's worshipped He is the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Power, can do such extraordinary things like bring these trees down. But he's being scolded by his mother. He's actually listening to her. And he's playing with, he's afraid of his friends not letting him play with them. So Srila Prabhupada explains that these are not contradictions. They only appear to be contradictions to us because we're on the mundane platform. But all contradictions are resolved in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the absolute level, there is no such contradiction. Krishna can both be God, and he can have all the powers of God, and he can also be a little boy in Vrindavan, and he can be afraid of his friends not letting him play with them again, or his mother scolding him to come home and have his lunch. Right? This is God. Okay. So after this pastime, actually, of the two trees being pulled down and the inhabitants of Vrindavan being sure that this was the action of demons, they thought to move to a safer place. So when Krishna first came to Vrindavan, when Vasudeva brought him, he was brought to the area of Gokul in Mahavan, or Gokul Mahavan. And the inhabitants of especially the cowherd men, they wanted to move to the area called Vrindavan. Okay, so we might find this a bit interesting. Isn't it all Vrindavan? So yes, we do refer to the entire area of the 12 forests as Vrindavan, but Vrindavan proper is one of the 12 forests. Right? And the forest out of the 12 that Krishna and his family were staying in is Mahavan. That is the forest which all these pastimes up to this point were happening in. And then when the cowherd men wanted to move, they wanted to move to the forest of Vrindavan. And of course, near Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, the Yamuna River, and many other wonderful places of the Lord's eternal pastimes. So everyone was quite happy to agree with the cowherd men that they should move to Vrindavan. And they got ready immediately and they left. So we may think about this a bit carefully, that when they left Vrindavan, Mahavan, and when they went to Vrindavan, what is the first thing that happened? Krishna and Balaram go out to herd the calves actually. They started by herding the calves. They go out to herd the calves and they encounter two demons. So much for no demons, right? But the cowherd people didn't move again. This is because actually Prabhupada says at the end of this page, 108, in this way, after reaching Vrindavan, where everyone lives eternally, very peacefully and happily. So Vrindavan is the eternal home. These demons, it's like how we say, on the pretext of killing demons, the Lord comes to the material world, but he has a purpose in actually delivering his devotees. He does many things on the pretext. So it may have seemed that the people were moving because they were demons troubling Krishna, but actually they were moving to Vrindavan, which is the eternal site of the Lord's pastimes. Govardhan Hill, the river Yamuna, all these places are where the Lord enjoys all his pastimes with his devotees. So this is actually why they moved there. And when they moved there, Krishna wanted to experience more of the Vrindavan forests. So he asked to herd the calves, right? And after a lot of cajoling, Mother Yashoda was convinced. She wasn't very pleased about that, but she, in her protective nature, but then she allowed Krishna and Balaram to join the other cowherd boys in herding the calves, and later on they actually herded the calves as well. So when they went out, they had this experience of a demon Vatsasura joining the herd of calves. So this demon, Vatsa is calf, Asura is demon, so literally the calf demon. He took the form of a calf so he could mingle with the other calves. Such a convincing disguise, some points that His Grace Chaitanya Shran Prabhu was making in a class, that he could fool the other calves. They thought he was also a calf, but he couldn't fool Krishna. Therefore, he has a very interesting representation of anarthas. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he describes the demons in terms of the anarthas that they represent. So again, this is not because we only take these pastimes in a figurative way. They literally happen. And for the pure devotees, they can realize that these pastimes are literally happening in front of them. We, however, are on different levels of understanding according to the mode that we are in. And so some people can only understand these pastimes with, say, a moral representation to it. Okay? But Krishna is providing that understanding also for them so that in some way they can relish his pastimes. Even if they're not taking it literally, they can be attracted to his pastimes even for getting the moral lesson out of it. This is the Lord's concession. In the same way he has a concession for the impersonalists, he has a form of light. He has a concession for the yogis who want to meditate on him, he has a form of the Paramatma. His ultimate reality is, of course, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in 6 opulences. So the ultimate understanding of these pastimes is the killing of this demon and, of course, the benedictions to the pure devotees and the joy they take out of the Lord's pastimes, the love that they exchange in all his pastimes. But there's still some moral meaning as well for those who will benefit through that. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says that Vatsasura represents wickedness, right, the quality of wickedness. So actually both these demons that we are going to, that we're going to quickly go through now in this chapter, they both kind of have that quality of pretending to be something they're not, appearing to be something innocent and then turning out to be something evil, deadly. But the way these anarthas are represented is slightly different. So the one is wickedness and the one is deceptiveness. So the wickedness actually comes from those who have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, right? We all struggle with lust and anger and pride and envy and so on. But if we don't acknowledge that these are weaknesses, we don't work on it, but rather we try to just pass off our behavior in these anarthas as normal or just should be tolerated by everyone else. It's actually just, it's acceptable, right? That's wickedness. Causing other people to suffer for what we are or how we are behaving and presenting it as something acceptable. Right? So it's a particularly bad quality, probably leads to a lot of sociopaths, psychopaths like that. But this is how Vatsasura himself also was coming to do something so bad, but he just passed it off as an innocent calf. Okay? So this is how it relates to the pastime. So of course, Krishna recognized it. The Supreme Lord always recognizes we may fool other people, we can't fool him. So he teaches us little lessons. Right? This is every opportunity where we have a challenge is our lesson to figure out what we're doing wrong and learn from it so it doesn't happen again. So we don't end up needing to be punished like a demon has to because they don't learn the lessons and eventually Krishna has to kill them. So this is what he did to this demon. He caught hold of the demon calf by the 2 hind legs and tail, whipped him around very forcibly and threw him into a tree. Right? The demon lost his life and fell down from the top of the tree to the ground. And when he lay dead on the ground, all the playmates of Krishna congratulated him. Well done, well done. So another interesting pastime that actually happened after this, it's not mentioned here, but it's actually quite similar to the pastime of Aristasura. When Krishna killed the bull demon Aristasura, the gopis refused to associate with him afterwards. They said that he was contaminated by killing this demon, even though the demon was a bull. Even though it was a demon, because he was in the shape of a bull, the gopis didn't want to have pastimes with Krishna. So in the same way, after Krishna killed this Vatsasura, the gopis didn't want to associate with Krishna. So he did a similar thing. He dug his flute into the ground and created a hollow and then called all the holy rivers, all other holy water bodies to inhabit that depression that he had created. And that place is called Venu Kupa, right? This pond that was created by the flute, the Venu. And it is in the area of Bandhirvan, right? Bandhirvan. This, it's near the famous Bandhirvata, a big banyan tree that Krishna and Balaram used to have their pastimes under. So Krishna, of course, took bath in all the holy rivers and then he was able to enjoy his pastimes with the gopis. So The next pastime in this chapter is Bakasura, the killing of Bakasura. So we said that he represents deceptiveness because he looked like something innocent. He looked like a heron or a crane. And again, he was a demon that was coming to kill Krishna. So this is a very clear lesson that we also may present ourselves sometimes as something that we're not. We may not have the nicest intentions behind our appearance. This is something we have to watch for, but we also have to be careful not to be deceived by the appearances of the material world. We sometimes want to be drawn in by the appearances of people who are very wealthy, people who are very beautiful, people who are very powerful. We don't actually care too much for the personality behind it, whether that personality is devotional, whether that person is even in the mode of goodness at least. We're just drawn in by that outer appearance. So we deceive, we become deceived. So this is what Bakasur represents. So he tried to, when the cowherd boys came towards him, they were watering their calves and they were also taking water themselves from the Yamuna river. So this Bakasura was a water bird. He actually was cursed by a sage from his previous life because he was a personality named Utkal and he was fishing. So the sage cursed him that he would become a fishing bird where he wouldn't need to actually have any instruments to fish with. And so he intended to kill Krishna, and he tried to kill Krishna by swallowing Krishna up. So Krishna has, of course, there's a power, a yogic power, where one can increase the digestive fire to the point where it's actually palpable outside of one's body. So Lord Kapila did that. That's how he was able to burn up the sons of Sagar, and Sati did that. That's how she was able to burn up her own body. Vedavati also did the same. Now Krishna is the master of all mystics, so certainly he can do that and more. So he also increased his bodily temperature so much that this Bakasura couldn't hold him in his throat and he had to spit him out. And then Krishna took the opportunity to bifurcate his beak and kill him. And after these pastimes, the cowherd boys and Krishna, the cowherd boys praised Krishna and they all went home. So when they arrived home, they were speaking about these wonderful activities of Krishna, and the gopis and the cowherd men, they were very happy. They were happy to hear about the Lord's glories, and they became more affectionate towards him. This is another important point for us. We may not be on the level yet of having affection for Krishna, that the hearing increases our affection, but at least at the stage we are at and what we can develop is faith, the hearing increases our faith. This is explained in the very famous verses in the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that by hearing our faith increases, and then with time that faith grows and it becomes affection, it becomes love, and then it still grows even after that point. Because we're reading about the inhabitants of Vrindavan, personalities already have the greatest love and affection for Krishna, but the more they hear, still more their affection and their love is increasing. This is the nature of the absolute platform. At the absolute platform, it's always increasing. The love for Krishna is always increasing. Krishna's love is always increasing. Krishna's power is always increasing. Krishna's beauty is always increasing like that. Right? Again, all contradictions are resolved in the Supreme. He's already the height of everything extraordinary, beautiful, and opulent, but still it's increasing even more than that, right? And this is emphasizing the importance of hearing. So also hearing, they spoke, right? Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men, they used to talk about the wonderful activities of Krishna. So they were hearing and chanting. This is why these processes don't ever stop. We know that they're the heart of our devotional practices here. They're also continuing in the spiritual world. These practices are the means and they're the end. Because when they're conversing about Krishna, they're experiencing Krishna's association. They have Krishna literally. We may think, well, why do they need to speak about Krishna? It's all absolute. Krishna is there when they're speaking about him. Right? We We don't understand that because for us it's a little bit of a challenge to speak about Krishna all the time. We're still in the modes, so we still find other things pleasurable to speak about. We may wonder, why do we find gossip so entertaining? Why do we find politics so interesting? It's because we're in the modes. Our pleasures are also affected by the modes. When we become purified of the modes and we come to the transcendental level, then we only find pleasure in the talks of Krishna. Until then, we have to keep the practice up. The practice is purifying us to the point where we can come to the level where we're still engaging in the practice, we're still hearing and chanting, but now we're actually getting the relish in that hearing and chanting. That's the actual process. So the hearing and chanting, we must, even if it means a little bit of coercion, a little bit of forcing the mind to do so, the effect of it is that it's going to purify us to that point where we will be relishing that hearing and chanting, and we won't have the taste for anything else. And so this chapter concludes with Krishna and Balaram enjoying their pastimes, imitating their other incarnations, Ram and Lakshman, building a bridge over the ocean. And this is how they happily pass their childhood life. So we will stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki. Are there any questions or comments or any corrections? Yeah, thank you, Prabhupada. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So you're always teaching us nice techniques for improving everything. That is a nice technique for remembering, actually, the writing and the retaining the points and stuff like that. It's a very nice technique.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Well researched. You mentioned the demons there, that Krishna and Balaram, Bakasura and Vatsasura. Is Bakasura and Putana, were they related in any way?
Yes, actually, I forgot to mention that Putana and Bakasura and Agasura are all siblings, all not so good siblings.
Yeah. Because in this verse, in the second canto Bhagavatam, Uddhava is remembering Krishna. And he remembers this wonderful prayer he offers to Krishna. And I'll just read it quickly. Ao Bhakiyam Stanakalakutam Jigyam Sayapaya Yadapasadvi Lebegatim Datri Uchitam Tatanyam Kamva Dayalam Sharanam Rajima. He's saying there, alas, how shall I take shelter of the one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. So that Bhakti is referred to as, translated as Putana. So Bhakti, actually Bhaka is the brother of Putana. Just trying to clarify.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. That's very nice, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah,
Brother.
it's actually it's a very beautiful. It's actually a very 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 beautiful verse, and it's the verse that attracted Shukadev Goswami to Bhagavatam, to devotional service, because only Krishna can be so kind that he could accept service from a demon. Again, he resolves all contradictions. Even if you come with evil intentions, he'll find the good in you and he'll take it as service. And that's that special privilege that she got. All the other demons got, mostly Sayojya Mukti, getting liberated into his effulgence. But she got a position in Vrindavan. She wasn't like, she got the position of a mother. She can't take Mother Yashoda's position. No one can actually take Mother Yashoda's position. So even if we have that ras of wanting to be in a parental relationship with Krishna, we can't become one of the personalities who's already there. That's like sort of an impersonalist line of thinking. But we can get the position of one of the elderly gopis, even the other motherly personalities in Mathura, in Dwarka, because all of them have that relationship, that motherly relationship with Krishna, and Krishna finds ways to reciprocate that motherly relationship as well. Like how with the stealing of the boys and calves, he took the opportunity to become the boys and calves so that all the inhabitants of Vrindavan could, all the mothers of Vrindavan could experience, all the cows could experience having Krishna as their child. And also how he steals. Krishna has no reason to steal. He has everything, but he takes that opportunity to go and taste the offerings that they're making for him anyway. Every gopi is hoping that Krishna will somehow taste something that they have prepared for him. So he'll take it by stealing, or even not only by stealing, I was reading, but also he sometimes goes to the houses of his friends, and when they're having a chat, then their mothers will bring out preparations for him. Also the lunches, when they all share each other's lunches, so all the lunches get shared. So anyone who wants that ability to serve Krishna in the role of a mother, they get that opportunity. More so for the devotees but even if a demon can get that position, then definitely by serving Krishna sincerely towards that, if we develop that relationship in the course of our devotional service, then we'll also get that position.
Thank you. And another point, interesting point you made by you quoting Indra Swami mentioned that when Mother Yasoda tied Krishna, so the perverted reflection of that tying is the Maya, the material world ties us, binds us. And then when he said Nanda Maharaj untied Krishna, that's the way I never saw it like that. Nanda Maharaj tying, that means that like the spiritual master is tying, freeing us from the knots of Maya. Thank you.
Maharaj is actually, he was quoting Hari Prasad Prabhu from the GBC Shastrik Advisory Committee. This is one of his, probably, yeah. I think, yeah. Yeah, Hari Prasad Prabhu. Okay. Are there any more comments or questions? If not, thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.